There it is.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, what's everybody up to tonight? Hey, how's it going, Bo? We've got...
Another Bo.
Yes, there's 2 Bows around now. Yes. There we go.
Yeah,
I feel much better
feels more
about life
comfortable,
now. You know, things felt a little off, you know?
Yeah, things were nearly yellow enough before this.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, remember last time you came, you didn't have those? And I was sad. Because I came back from my trip, and I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
What's your yellow glasses?
Yeah. Disappointing, I know. I cracked them, actually. I broke them. I put them in a bag with some tools, and they got all cracked up, but I'm still going to wear them.
Nice.
Because Derek pays me, and he wants them.
Nice. Yes, that's a good reason. I support it. So do us a favor, guys. As Bo would say, gently caress that like button for us. We've got special guest with us tonight. We've got Justin Bryant from Two Notes North America with us, and we were checking out some of their new artist pack cabs earlier today, like the new Phil X cabs and
the George Lynch cabs.
Yeah, man, that George Lynch VH1 cab just sounds like so good.
I've been really set on the Lynch Mars cab.
Yeah.
Sounds unreal, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were kind of messing around with that, and I messaged Justin yesterday and was like, hey, man, like, we were thinking about doing this on the live streams, and are you available to come in and kind of hang out and chat with us? And, you know, I know Justin was, you know, essentially the brains behind doing the artist packs with these, you know, with George and with Phil. And, you know, we'd love to hear, you know, like a little more about what kind of the inspirations are on each one of the Dyna-Rs and, like, you know, how we can kind of learn to dial them in better, because we've done one or two other, I think just one other live stream so far on how Torpedo Remote works and using the Torpedo embedded with your Gen, you know, 100s or 120s in the Mark III series. But, you know, it'd be great to have, or we thought it'd be great to have you come in and tell us how to do things properly.
Yeah, have an expert on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody say hi to Justin, and Justin, you know, you can. I kind of teed it up a little bit, but if you want to tell everybody a little bit about your background, you know.
Yeah.
Wants to go to the beach and hugs and all the fun things at NAMM.
We just like to go to a beach. So, I mean, that'd be a big step. I mean, 24/7 every day, just doing this. No, it's all good though. A lot going on. Trying to think where I start. Derek, you kind of know a little bit about this, but I met some of the distributors back probably 8 or 9 years ago in Nashville at an NAMM show. And I know Pete Thorne had been using the stuff for a while. And my background is pretty heavy in music and tech. I actually was in the music industry full time until 2006, started working at software companies, started my own consulting firm, and then sold my own consulting firm. Went to PV for a while, started another consulting group. It was acquired. And then January 2020, I came over to Two Notes. But going back a step, I was doing some session and some road stuff in Nashville in the early 2000s and met the guys at the AMP show, and had first been indoctrinated through Pete Thorne videos and things like that. And I was really curious to check it out. So they were just like in a little hotel. It was when the AMP show was in a hotel in Nashville by the airport.
Yeah.
And that's when you could crank everything up really loud so you could get a good representation. It was like the anti-NAMM. You know, we could really, you know, you could go full.
That show was at the Preston, right? Like over by the airport. I did it 1 year. I think the last year that it happened was the only year that Rev did it, and it was just a ton of fun. But it was the longest day you could imagine working at that show. Like the show literally opened at noon.
Yeah.
But ran till midnight every night. And at midnight every night, that's when you stopped and everybody hung out and drank beer in their rooms. And it was
until noon the next day when the show started again.
It was so weird because you slept in the room that you were also demoing in the next day. And you're
that's
like,
weird, man.
This is strange. And that's why they were like, yeah, the show starts at noon so that like the maid service can come in and clean up the room before you start showing it to people.
Oh, it's wild, dude.
It's creepy. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great time. And I think part of the reason you guys are fatigued too, right? You're here, you're getting blasted with sounds in those rooms because it's basically most of the hotels rented to the music companies. So yeah, I'd met the guys down there. Two Notes was very, very small. There weren't many users in the United States. Definitely wasn't big with road and studio players, but around that time, which was, I want to say 2011, 12, I was playing with a lot of country acts, and the whole stage volume thing was a big, big deal. In-ear monitors had definitely taken over. So it went from like the bigger the stage you played to the less volume you could play. And I'd always track down amps that had like power scaling or something where I could get the amp to kind of drive it, at a certain level. But it just started to become so quiet that you really couldn't hear the guitar. So it was the Torpedo Live was the first product I have. And it fixed the big problem of the first thing I didn't have to worry about stage volume because I could hear it in your monitors, and it would cure that problem. But at home, I was also still doing a lot of spot session stuff, not near as much as I'd done before, but I'd still do, send tracks back and forth. And it cured that problem of getting a good guitar sound late at night. So that was a big deal for me. And this is before Kempers and all that stuff even were around. But the tech just keeps improving, and obviously you guys are the first adopters of embedding it into an amplifier, but it's now becoming the common thing out there. And I like to think like what Rev's doing and what we're doing is we're kind of saving tube amps, and there is a difference between tube amps and processors. And it's like once you plug a guitar into a real amp and then you plug it into a modeler, I don't care who the modeler is, it's different. It just responds different, reacts different. So
absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I've always found like I was really impressed. I had a Kemper for a few years, and I mean I used the Line 6 Pod XT Live and stuff like that just to write stuff at home with when like long before I knew that Two Notes existed, and probably to be honest before Two Notes even did exist. I used products kind of like that, and I always found that like the dynamics were always what was off compared to a tube amp for me. It responded so fast that it just all felt weird to me. So whenever I would go back and plug into a tube amp, even though I would be completely happy with the sound that I could get out of a Kemper or out of a modeler.
Well, I think just like you said it best, it's like I think my opinion has always been like, especially with some of the new stuff coming out, the modelers and stuff, like doing like a blind listen, like arguably they sound so good, some of them.
Oh, you cannot tell the difference in.
But it's the feel, it's the way they play. Like they just don't do the same thing under your fingers that a tube amp's gonna do for you.
Yeah, I find you lose that like sag and saturation.
Yeah.
And the and the ability to like
to feel the amp, man.
like let up. I'm of course doing that on the absolute wrong channel to do it, but like. You lose that.
Yeah.
Like the ability to do that is what I found.
Yeah.
And that's not to crap on modelers in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just going to answer Justin. So just so you know how we do these, I know you've watched some of these, but we typically answer questions as we go through, and I don't bother, saying like, let's wait for Q&A at the end. So Craig, you asked, do you think Mark kind of helped kneecap NAMM with his garage or whatever? All of the videos I keep seeing are from the Gibson garage instead of NAMM floor. So the best person to answer this, I'm going to give my opinion afterwards, but Justin was actually there, and I wasn't at Summer NAMM. So Justin, I'd love to know what you think of that.
Gibson took that Game of Thrones thing they have where they kind of got it from Game of Thrones and Dave Grohl when he broke his leg on the Foo Fighters tour a few years back. And then Axl Rose, used it as well. They had their Gibson, throne thing, and it was up in the front before you even go into the convention hall. And they literally had like escorts at the front. They take pictures of you. And the Gibson garage is actually about a block from the convention center, straight down the road. So it literally is a 2-minute walk, to 2 or 3 minute walk to get to there. So they were basically taking people that come in NAMM and just redirect them out of the building. It's part brilliant. They're located in Nashville, obviously, headquarters there, but it was a distraction for sure. It was clever.
I would say this about it. What I think there was a benefit to it is Summer NAMM this year was pretty much guaranteed to be dead. We were actually not going to go until, like, Justin, you called me and were like, are you guys going to go? And I'm like, I don't think so. And then we had several of our dealers request meetings, and I was like, I'm like, well, Sean and Travis are based in Nashville, so you know what? The Summer NAMM is not that expensive. It's not like Winter NAMM. So I thought, you know what? Sure, we'll put a small booth up and like very basic. We won't send our soundproof rooms or anything like that. And we'll see how it goes. The one thing I will give Gibson is because of the fact that they hosted their like pre-NAMM party, even though they weren't part of NAMM, I think it helped draw a significant amount of dealers into Nashville for that week. So as much as people want to get kind of like, I've had people, comment and kind of get upset saying like, well, they kind of, like you say, they kind of kneecapped them. I don't think they did. I think it probably helped. I think more dealers came in to see, probably to see you, Justin, and to see Travis and Sean because they knew, okay, Summer NAMM's going to be small. There weren't a lot of vendors because, to be honest, almost every guitar company has been, or like MI company has been sold out of product for the last year and in a back order status. So they didn't need to spend money on going to a show like this. And, being from Canada, we were like technically the border wasn't open for us to be able to go down and do that show. Like we can technically take stuff across the border for like transport purposes. So I could like drive the booth there, but I wasn't supposed to work at the show or, have meetings or anything like that without having to quarantine. Now that's just been changed now if you're double vaccinated and stuff like that you can kind of do some of those things again. But when we had to make a decision about doing the show, that stuff wasn't in play. So there was really not a lot of people going. And yeah, I personally think that, sure, Gibson could have spent the money and gone to the show and it would have been probably better for NAMM. But overall, I think the attendance and the quality of attendees that you guys ended up having as far as, dealer reps or buyers there, I think it was really great. And I think it was helped a lot by the fact that Gibson had that pre-NAMM Gibson Garage party. Because there was that, did you go to that closed party thing the night before? No? Like I know Travis went. Travis went with somebody, I don't know who got him in, but yeah.
Yeah, I almost did go, but we set up and we're tired by the time we got there. Obviously I'm about 4 hours away from Nashville, so we got set up and everything. I would say that the floor was about 20 to 25% occupied. Your booth looked great. I thought our booth looked great. A handful of other booths looked great. I'll dovetail to what you were saying. I think the quality of people was better because it wasn't a lot of just people off the street, so to speak. It was a lot of Midwestern dealers, but you could actually have a conversation with people, which was nice. I was able to meet with some artists that were onboarding that that live in Nashville. So I think for that aspect, it was good. Was it super sexy overall? Like some shows, no. What will happen next year? Nobody knows, right? But it definitely, the consensus I got from everybody that's done NAMM shows for 35, 40 years was definitely the weirdest show. It's kind of the universal.
Yeah, that picture you showed me, I was amazed that like there was no carpet in the aisles, and I'm like, man, we get fined if we don't put down like carpet in our booths. And NAMM, there's just cement everywhere, and all the booths are way spaced out, which I kind of figured was going to happen based off of the fact that there's still a lot of people that aren't up for traveling, with whatever like what's the variant? The Delta variant on the rise and stuff like that. I knew there was going to be people that wouldn't want to travel, but and again, I think the biggest thing that people don't understand that aren't in MI is that Summer NAMM's not horrible cost wise, but Winter NAMM is crazy expensive. Like it is like we will spend like last year. Gil might get mad at me for saying this, but last year between Two Notes and Rev, I'm sure we spent more than $100,000 to go to NAMM.
What?
Yeah.
Holy.
By the time you get all your people there, the booth itself probably costs you between space rental, They have like material handling fees. They charge you for electrical. They charge you for every little thing. I'm sure we spent north of $50,000 between the two companies. Never mind then bringing people in and, you know, whatever else you're going to try to do during the show. Because I mean, we were looking at it this morning on our marketing call for Winter NAMM this year, and like, we can't go with less than 8 or 9 people in order to run the show properly. And like 2 Notes, you guys went with, like last year we were what, 5 roughly to do the show?
Yeah,
so,
it's 5.
Yeah, so that's about right, because now our booths won't be together, so we won't get to have as many fun times as we did last year. But yeah, like Rev probably had like 6 or 7 people last year, and then now we'll have at least 8. Yeah.
Well, you're well. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say you're well aware that NAMM costs for big companies can exceed $1 million in Winter NAMM easily.
Yes.
Wow.
And yeah, dude, I heard Fishman spent well over $250,000, and that's like Fishman's got OEM pickups, like they're going in guitars without them going to NAMM,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing that is kind of hurting NAMM and the prospect of NAMM this next year, like in January, is that a lot of those big companies. I mean, I heard PRS is booking for 2 years out right now for dealer orders. Fender was like 18 months, and Gibson stopped taking orders for about a month so that they could try to figure out how to manage their production. Well, I think just how to organize their production. Not even because it was just so much so fast. Because through COVID, guitars have moved. Well, everything in MI has moved so unbelievably fast that everybody's kind of scrambling, and you know, part shortages and things like that kind of make it tough. I'm just going to answer Craig's other question here. Considering how big GearFest is, what do I think will kind of happen to NAMM? Okay, GearFest and NAMM are drastically different events. Like, night and day different. There's no way that we would go to GearFest and then say we're not going to NAMM. Like, it will always be both and. Because GearFest is essentially going and supporting arguably our biggest dealer in the world. Sweetwater does an amazing job for, I know this because, you know, prior to Justin having the job he has, I did Justin's job for 2 years. So they are the biggest for most companies in North America, and they are unbelievable to work with. But GearFest is directed 100% to the public. Like, we are to engage the public. We are to, you know, show our products and try to get people interested, and they buy from Sweetwater, and it is 100% a selling event. NAMM shows are not selling events, and they are not normally ever open to the public.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be just B to B, so business to business, not business to consumer.
Yeah.
We call them the NAMM tourists, which we love. Like, that's why I'll post on Facebook ahead of a NAMM show being like, who wants a badge? Like, I remember wanting to go to the show, and like, literally I owned a printing company, and I bribed my buddy's company by being like, hey, I'll print you a bunch of t-shirts if you'll get me NAMM badges.
Go, yeah. Dude, as a guitar player, it's like been my dream forever to go to a NAMM show.
Exactly. So
I am going to the next one, right?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, like GearFest will not overtake NAMM ever. It'll just be a different thing. Justin, I'm not sure. What's your thought on that?
No, you nailed it, man. Just to go back to NAMM, 1994 summer was my first NAMM show ever, and I was 3 years. I was 3.
I'd just like to tell you, I was 14.
I was 19, but for better for worse, and I'm not airing any bad laundry. The NAMM show has been ran the same way probably since it started. So the only thing that's changed with NAMM is that you seem to see more public days or more people that aren't related to being on the buying side. You know, like you said, it was supposed to be for entertaining the buyers, showing them new products, but the web and YouTube and everything like that's completely changed that. So yeah, you still got to show products at the NAMM show, but to your point, GearFest is 100% set up for, you know, the consumer. And I mean, they get over 100,000 people come out of that now, which is in Fort Wayne is like, I'm an hour and 20 minutes from Fort Wayne. So when somebody tells me there's going to be an event with over 100,000 people in Fort Wayne, I'm like, what are you talking about? But
yeah,
it's crazy. And it'll be bigger the next time they have one.
Yeah, and they do an amazing job of it, right? Like, because they don't just have it that you can meet, you know, most of the owners for brands, and they'll have, like, you know, we always have Sean there to help demo products,
Yeah.
and like the next one Sammy will go to. So you do end up having, you know, kind of like, you'll end up seeing like some artists at Gear Fest, right? They bring some guys in, and you can also go and listen to people like do like, I don't know what you call them, like lectures or talks or whatever. Like
Like
the last time
workshops and stuff. Yeah. Like,
yeah, but the
Yep.
last time I went, Randall Smith from Mesa Boogie was doing a talk about, like, you know, like Mesa Boogie's legacy and like how they started.
That's
and,
pretty cool,
and
yeah.
I was like, hey Sean, the only time I want to leave this booth is I want to go listen to Randall Smith.
Yeah.
I'm like, I played those amps for like a decade and a half before Rev started,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I still play some of those amps. So I'm like, I want to go hear him speak and just see
Absolutely, yeah, I
what
get that.
see what it's like. And yeah, and some of that stuff, I would say you don't really get that at NAMM, because it's not things geared towards, you know, just kind of pumping up the public's tires.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
And
yeah.
and at Gear Fest, the vendors are outside, you know, so the
Yeah.
town kind of disperses, and then all the breakout sessions are in their theaters and their conference rooms. I remember seeing Pete Thorne do a recording tutorial, you know, and there were probably 300 people, and it was a silent thing other than Pete playing and playing back tracks. So you can escape the madness, so to speak, which you can't really do it now. But again, two very different audiences. You nailed it though. Back.
Oh yeah,
back.
dude. Like NAMM, the ambient noise level in the room is like 95 decibels.
Insane, yeah.
All day long. And the noise police walk around telling you that if you're above 85 decibels, you have to turn down. So legitimately, you'll have an amp running, and you cannot
Hear it.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, and they'll just take this little device,
Yeah.
like this little decibel meter, point it at your rig, and be like,
Too
turn
loud,
it down.
turn it down,
And I'm
yeah.
like, can you go tell them to turn down the cymbals and snare drums
Well,
that
it's
are...
even like watching like YouTube, like guys like from the NAMM just like reviewing, like going to booth or whatever. It's like they're just yelling into the
Yeah.
microphones, just trying so hard to like be heard and hear anything.
Yeah,
Seems like a mess, but it seems like a hot mess that I want to go to.
it is. It's... Go ahead, Justin.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's sensory overload, especially for music people, because I think
Yeah.
every music person's ears are trained to try to decipher sounds and break them apart and then compartmentalize them into something. I'll be honest with you. You go into the wrong door at the winter show, like by the percussion stuff, and you walk through that, it can make you nauseous. I mean, and the other thing is you get not just ear fatigue from all the sound, you actually get physically fatigued from just being pumped in your brain trying to decipher all these crazy noises going on. The
Wow,
other
yeah.
thing, Derek, that you were touching on is when you have a booth, you can't hear your stuff at all. Luckily, we make things with headphones, so we're able to get that thing. And there's a funny thing we'll talk about in a second, but you seem to hear everybody else's booths a lot louder than you would hear your own, and that's
Yeah.
the unfortunate side effect of NAMM.
Well, that was the reason that we, like, from the first NAMM show that we've gone to, Summer NAMM this year was the first time we did not take a soundproof enclosure, because we really just didn't think that it was going to be big enough to warrant the expense of shipping in one of the rooms. And other than that, because I had gone as a tourist long before I even met Dan, when we started talking about going to NAMM after Dan and I started working together, I was like, the number one thing we need is a soundproof room. Otherwise, no one will hear our product. You will never be able to decipher or discern like the quality of, any voicings or tones out of anything.
Yeah. It's just gonna sound like mud.
And to be honest, this is a nice little segue for us to get back into talking about two notes. Like, that is how I got involved with two notes, is that I was looking for something to be able to run our amps through headphones that sounded good, because there were some other options on the market, and they all sounded like shit. Sorry to everybody else, but at the time, like, I'll preface this by saying this: the UA Aux and a lot of other things that have come out after Two Notes had already pioneered that market.
Yeah.
That stuff came out long after this. But there wasn't really much of anything that existed to be able to do that efficiently. And I was talking to Fluff and said, like, hey man, I'm like, you keep talking about that like torpedo thing. I'm like, what is that? So he explained to me what it was, and I'm like, that's exactly what we need, because one of the problems that we have at the NAMM show is we only normally have one soundproof room.
Yeah.
Like, we've sometimes taken two, but really there's one that the you know, just any general, like even dealers or general public can get into. And man, there will be a lineup to get into that room where like people keep coming by and can't get in because a kid got in there and he's got his 7-string and he
doesn't want to leave, man. Yeah.
Exactly. And we don't want to tell him to leave either. Like, we want you to play our stuff and to fall in love with it, and you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I started talking to Ryan. He told me about the Torpedo. I first bought a Torpedo Studio, and then I'm completely technology inept. So I was like, do you have anything simpler? Like, so I bought the Live, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, something I can just plug into and be done, yeah.
So we worked out a little deal, and we picked up 6 Torpedo Lives so that we could have a bunch of amps outside of that room then, so that if people were coming by and the rooms were full, we're like, here's headphones. We've developed some presets, and you know, sit down, plug in, and let's go, right? And it's made a world of difference at those shows. Like, our booth is so much quieter because we used to have a few amps outside of the room that were on either 212 or 4x12 cabinets. That it's inevitable that, Justin will also attest to this, people just walk up to the booth, and if they see a guitar on the wall and an amp there, they just grab it and start playing.
Yeah.
And then they just start tweaking. And if they find something that they like, they just crank that shit up. Like, that's all they're gonna do. And then the noise police walk by, and they're like, turn it down. Otherwise, they claim that they could shut your booth down. I've never actually seen it. I've seen the booth where you got shut down.
No, I've seen it happen. It has happened.
Yeah, I have seen where they.
You got to do a lot. I've seen. Yeah, go ahead.
I always see the token booth. I always see the token booth every year, where there's a black drape over it. You don't see whose it was. No one knows who was at it, but it says this booth closed due to noise violation.
Really?
And
wow.
It's always, I'm convinced it's NAMM's way of scaring everybody to be like, see, we do it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's like the first booth that gets set up is just the black curtain booth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm looking at the map and it doesn't say who's in this spot, but they're closed because of noise violation.
Honest confession, maybe I saw the same exact thing before, and I just assumed it was somebody that got shut down. So
yeah,
I should retract that. I saw it happen. I assumed it happened because they had that curtain, the little card on it saying it's been shut down. So,
Jeremy asked, did they make the cost to present at NAMM too high to see a return? Yes, absolutely. It depends on how you want to see a return. It depends on what your, I would say, what's the best way to say this? It depends on what your purpose for going to the show is.
Well, yeah, you're saying it's not a selling show, so like, you're not going to see an immediate.
But everybody thinks it is when they go, and a lot of dealers, and especially a lot of guys that have been around for a while, that's what they still think the show is, and that's what they want out of the show. So then you've got somebody who has put a lot of their money on the line and has said, like, okay, you know what? If we're going, I want, we're spending, like, say you do a small booth. Like, when Two Notes and us were together, we did a 20 by 30, which is pretty big, right? Like, you can do a 10 by 10. Mm-hmm. First couple of years, we did 10 by 20s, and those you're looking at more like probably about $20,000 by the time you get your staff in, or maybe, actually probably more like $30,000 by the time you pay for everybody's accommodations and all that stuff. First couple of years we went to NAMM. First year we did not sign one dealer, and we did not sell one amplifier off the floor.
Yeah.
A week after the show, I sold one amp to an artist for an artist discount.
Okay.
So it was a little rough. We lost a lot of money.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
And honestly, I think that that's what happens to the vast majority of people who try to try at the NAMM show. And if you learn how to turn that show into a marketing event rather than just a sales event, which is, to be honest, how I treat that show for us.
Yeah.
I plan that show 100% around launching a product or promoting a product, not an attempt to sign dealers and to write orders on the floor. I know we're not going to write orders. I also look at it as a bit of market research to see like what kind of opinions we get back from people as they're trying stuff out, right? You know, like last year, there's a lot of people who, or not last year, it's been, you know, the last NAMM show.
The last
Yeah.
year, whenever it was. Yeah.
Winter 2020, just before COVID hit, we took the not the generator, but sorry, like the elusive gold 50 watt head that a lot of people have asked about. We took it there to get feedback from a lot of like pro players and like honestly for guys like Sean, because we finished the prototype of it and Sean hadn't played it yet. So I was like, you know what, we'll just bring it to the show. And we had it in the second room that like, we have a separate room that's normally reserved for like when you're doing like media and like you're doing like magazine interviews and stuff like that. And in some dealer meetings, like I had a lot of my meetings in there when the Two Notes room was busy. Yeah, so we'll do kind of stuff like that, and I think that that's the way to handle that show. And I do think, and Justin, I'm sure you probably agree with this because you alluded to it before. I think that the problem with NAMM is that the people in charge of NAMM don't realize that the show has morphed so drastically from what it was to what it currently is. And now for those big companies that are spending, you know, anybody spending 6 figures to 7 figures, the show's really not necessary for Fender or Gibson or PRS or Marshall. Like most of those companies, they don't need the show.
Yeah, who doesn't know about you? Who's not paying attention, right?
That's right. Your stuff is going into every store that is listed as a dealer and that you choose to be a dealer when you're at that size. And the show has changed where like a lot of buyers will come and check out everything at the show, and instead of like impulse buying something off the floor to fill their shelves for the next few months, they take all the information back, they go home, they dissect it all, they wait for your offer for, you know, an opening load-in, you know, if you're going to give them a discount or whatever you're going to do to get them on board. And, you know, you start to see the orders trickle in. I'd say normally takes like 4 weeks before you start to see anything happening.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, you know what? Like, why spend that kind of money? And especially now, right? Like, if you're talking about companies like Fender who are booking, like that if you ordered a guitar as a Fender dealer that you might not get it for 18 months. I don't know if that's still the case, but the last dealer meetings I had, that's what I was hearing was 18 months for Fender, 24 months for PRS. At least you had to project that far out. And if that's the case, they're busy for 2 years. They don't need to spend the money on the show this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and you got to pull people out of production to do it too, right? So some of those people are going to be in operations or they're going to be manufacturing. So when you're that busy, you can't just pull people out of that just to you know, go to a show.
100%. Bo builds almost all of the Mark IIIs.
All the Mark IIIs.
He'll go to all of them. Yeah. Bo builds all of the Mark IIIs. We won't worry about saying that Max does any work on them. So Bo's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't toll X, but anyway, the fact is, you know, if Bo comes to the show with us, which you will this year, then
I'll be building out in NAMM.
Well, like you won't be producing then. We'll have somebody else try to slide into your spot, but like for the most part, we lose. You know, if we take 8 people that are all core people, there are some people for sure that are from production that will not be doing production.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That being said, it's the most fun thing in the world. Like it's, you know.
I'm dying to go, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I still love the show. I hope that NAMM figures it out. I hope that NAMM figures that the format of the show should change. I'm one of the few people that actually advocates that we should have dedicated public days, 2 of them, where people can buy a ticket to get into the show, and that all of the media, like press, media, dealer, and artist stuff is all done a few days before that and extend the show by at least 1 day. I think that, you know, as much as it makes it tiresome for a lot of people, like 5 days in a row of, like 4 days in a row of NAMM is lots.
Yeah.
5 or 6 would make it, you know, more exhausting.
Unbearable, yeah.
But in the same breath, you know, charge everybody $20 to get into the show for Saturday and Sunday, and lower the cost of a booth for vendors, and you'll see more vendors coming out.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Let me know if it ever works and if they ever lower the price for a booth.
Oh,
And
they will not. Well,
of course
they'll
not.
they'll
Jack up.
NAMM will die before that happens because they'll refuse to do that, and like there will be a lot of companies that will just say, you know what, it's not worth the cost of a booth.
Totally.
So, yeah.
And not to bring up any precarious things with the new COVID variants, but it'll be interesting to see how. And then let me go back a step. The day after the show was over, our rep, who's the same as yours from NAMM, was contacting us, going, "Okay, ready to book the winter show? Let's get your booth done. Let's get it all locked in." But the interesting thing is, we don't know what's going to happen in winter yet, and because the NAMM, the other thing is the winter NAMM show is international. You have a lot of people from countries all over the world. So, how are people going to get there? What's going to be COVID rules? Where, NAMM has not got any of that figured out. I guarantee it. I don't want to speak for them, but I just did. Because nobody knows.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say no one's got it figured out. Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Absolutely. No one knows if the vaccinations that are out right now, whether or not they're going to fight off the newer variants, and whether or not anything is going to get worse stateside. And the reality is, NAMM is in Anaheim. Whatever the restrictions are, they're going to be the toughest in California than anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be the toughest place in the U.S. to put on that show. So right now, I'm sure they're just, like you said, like they were struggling really badly to get vendors, as you know, to Summer NAMM. So I'm sure they're just pummeling everybody. Like we've already booked our booth for Winter NAMM, and if they don't have the show or we're not allowed to go, they'll refund our money, and that's it. But I'm hopeful that that everything is it's going to look different, I think, than the previous NAMM shows for sure. There's rumor that Fender and PRS aren't going already. But that's, there was rumor a few years ago that Gibson was pulling out permanently after doing CES, and that was short-lived, right? Like I think it was Henry made the decision to go to CES instead of NAMM or AES or something.
Yeah,
CES?
Over the last 20 years, there have been some big vendors like Fender and Gibson, I believe, have each pulled out of the show, or Yamaha has pulled out of the show, and then came back a few years later. And it's kind of the testing. Maybe they're using leverage, but I think they're testing the waters to see how relevant is the show for us. Does it matter? And as you're well aware, sometimes the show is about, if you're not there, then people think you disappeared or you went bankrupt or
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think anytime you leave the show, no matter what, you create a vacuum. Somebody fills your spot, and that allows, they're getting some attention from your network, no matter what you think. I think that's a big part of Rev's, kind of continued building, is that there are other major amp brands that chose not to go to NAMM several years in a row. And when we were, and all of a sudden, if you're talking about modern high gain amps, some of the bigger companies weren't there anymore, and we were. So you get the attention of their distributors, a lot of distributors and a lot of dealers and once they see you there, I'll say this for anybody, like when I think it was Jeremy was asking about like the return on it. I think in the end, you're going to be 5 years. I was given this advice by my buddies that own Temple Audio Boards when we started. And they said it'll take you between 3 and 5 years before you gain any traction at all with any dealers. And that a lot of dealers are going to want to see that you're able to kind of stand on your own 2 feet, because if you aren't, they're not going to be able to get product warranty. They're going to have a lot of problems. And it takes you, at least 5 years to build any sort of brand recognition, really.
That's kind of what I was told when I started here too, is like, people look at you seriously once you've been around for like 5 years to prove that you're not just a flash in the pan.
So,
well, how many companies have you seen, that amp companies like Rhino Amps or somebody like that, they come out of nowhere, they make a big splash, they make signature models of things, and then 6 months later they're gone.
They're gone.
Dude,
flash in the pan, man. Yeah.
Panama, right? Like, remember, Panama Amps was everywhere. They were all over YouTube. Ryan Bruce was working for them. They had stuff everywhere right when we were starting. They were backed by a ton of money and, like, gone.
I don't remember them.
No? No. They had a cool look. The amp looked really cool, and their NAMM booth was a cool idea. They brought, I think it was like a bowler camper, like decked out, or like a Vita. Like dude. it was a smart idea. But that was probably like 6 years ago, and within 2 years, I think that it was over and done with. I mean, the amp market is a very, very difficult market, and Justin, that plays back to, I absolutely agree with you that I think Two Notes is doing a lot to help bring tube amps back.
Save
and
the tube amp, yeah.
I talked to Justin. You know the guys at Mental Case, right?
I've been to Mental Case. I met one of the guys, but he probably wouldn't remember me. And honestly, I can't remember his name. I want to say John, but that's a guess.
Okay, so my buddy Corey from Nashville was at Mental Case getting some cases made for one of his heads, and he was telling me that they are like flooded with people getting cases for 100-watt tube heads for tour. And a lot of it has to do with Captor X's, because the Captor X has been a massive, massive hit for you guys. And I think, and I mean, not to plug your competitors, but, you know, the Ox and the Wazacraft and some other things have helped expand that market and have guitar players realize that, you know, there's more than one way to do things. Like, a perfect example is, I mean, we are going to play some of these artist back cabinets tonight.
At some point, we're going to play guitar here, yeah.
Because we are talking nonstop.
Well, one of us is.
Yeah, sorry. I'll stop now.
No, I like it. It's like, I got no pressure on me right now.
In the room here right now, like, we don't have, like, these cabinets are false cabinets. There's nothing in them. We're running direct into our UAD Apollo. And Bo and I each now have like in-ears that we can listen back so that we can talk to you and hear. And like, it's no different than when you're touring with an in-ear rig that like, that's yeah. That's what we're getting from that. So yeah. So anyway, we should move on from NAMM talk. If you guys want to hear us talk about NAMM, what we'll do is I'll set up a time where we can have a live stream where, you know what we should do is like, Justin, you and I should get like 5 or 6 other industry dudes on here that have been on the side of it that we're on, and we'll answer every question you guys have about NAMM shows or Music Mesa or any of that kind of stuff.
That'd be a sick show.
Because, you know, there's a lot there, and I think there's a lot of preconceived notions about, you know, what NAMM does for us, or what, you know, or like I should say what the NAMM show does for us, not NAMM as an organization. You know, for Jeremy who said, let's start our own NAMM, zero chance. no desire to start or run a trade show. Would just like it for the trade show that's operating to run smooth. So let's check out some of these cabs, man, because, yeah, talk for
That's what we're here for,
minutes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Justin,
Do you guys?
I was starting with the Lynch ones. I messed around a little bit with the Phil X ones and the Lynch ones. I mainly went straight to that VH1 cab because you were like, hey, just go to that cab and play any Van Halen riff and you'll be happy. And yeah, I'm super impressed, right? And I didn't even do anything. Can you guys pull up my? Yeah, there you go. So. Like, I haven't moved the mics on axis or off axis or anything. It's just the stock. You know, as soon as you load the Dyne-IR. For everybody who doesn't know, Dyne-IR is it's supposed to be for dynamic IR, right, Justin?
Yeah, dynamic impulse response. To make it simple but yet complicated with a big number, every mic that you use, because you can mic the front and back of any cabinet, any singular mic, and each pack comes with 8 mics per cabinet. Any singular mic is the equivalent of 20,000 flat impulse responses. So we've coined it and try to, you know, own this dynamic IR, because each single cabinet with one microphone alone, front and back, is 20,000 different impulse responses based on how you drag the microphone around. Now, that's a huge number for people to think about, but the idea to keep it simple is you just move the microphone to where it sounds best. Don't worry about the math. Don't worry about the numbers. Just go where it sounds best. So you don't just have that one fixed moment in time. You find where it sounds best. And then
like here, I'll show you guys. Like, I'll move the ribbon mic around a little bit on here. Like.
Hey, Derek, hit the mute on the 57 real quick, just so you can isolate the mic. I think you'll get a better representation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So just hit the
Dude,
mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that's a massive difference.
It's crazy how like the subtlest little shift, like it's.
Back of the cab thing is kind of cool sometimes too, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
Now, Derek,
Do you have it?
put that back in there. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll turn my effects off. Thing like, or you know what? I'll mute this and like. So you guys can hear like some of the different types of mics.
It's you were saying it to me before we got started here, but the mics really make so much difference. Like the types of mic you're using on these cabs,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah, dude.
crazy
Like-
different.
I'm a big fan of that. Like I use a 421 and a 121 on a lot of our like the Rev 412 cabinets
Yeah.
when I'm messing around with the torpedo remote. Justin, you ever do that, or what's your kind of go-to?
Yeah. So, Derek, I don't want to give a sales pitch, but let's go back to something that you brought up when you were pulling the mics back. The spirit of the artist series was contingent on a few things. The first one is obviously we want somebody known for tone. We want a great player that's got a legacy or a professional portfolio where they're known for great tone. On top of that, we want to make sure that we're using some speaker cabinets or speakers that aren't just accessible to everyone. You can't just go into a Guitar Center or a Sweetwater and purchase these. So I always look for the artist, I look for the rarity of the speakers, but I also want them to be something that people will want, but I call it unobtainiums, things that you just can't get a hold of. And for instance, right here, you're looking at one of Eddie Van Halen's original cabinets that he pulled the Tolex out of in the early mid 70s. And he sold this particular cabinet to George in the very early 80s, 80, 81 or so, when Van Halen changed their stage lineup to the flag systems where they have all those speakers all over the place. And then to go back another step further, working with George, he was really into the concept. He was like, man, it's a pain in the ass to pull a speaker out of a cabinet and then screw it back in and then try to remember if it sounds better or worse than the one before it. And these guys have been down that road, both Phil and George. George has been doing this for 45 years, from almost 50 years of tone chasing. So these are the cabinets that these are like his gems, his golden cabinets and golden speakers. So going back another step further, George and I, first of all, we identified the cabinets. The second thing we did is we identified the studio. So we picked Henson, which was A&M, which was Charlie Chaplin's studios before that, which more particularly we picked Studio D, which is arguably the best guitar rock room maybe in the world. But it is known for classic rock and rock. So when you pull those microphones back, you're actually blending in some of the air and the reflections and comb filtering of the room. So you're actually blending in, Henson Studio D. And then, of course, we use Neve, vintage Neve 1061. So all those factors play a part. So the artist is important, sure, but the artist with their gear that you cannot buy is another piece. The rooms that you're in, not everybody can get to even see the inside of one of those. And then something I want to make sure that I point out is these microphones are not just some kind of modeled or profiled. Let me go back. They're not modeled as in we have a code base that is a 421, or we have a code base that's a 121, or a code base that's a 57. These are all microphones in the studios, or mics that we bring in. So there's going to be some variance in those, like
Yeah.
the Tube 67. And that's the other thing. Some of these mics are extremely expensive. $2,000 to $10,000. So the idea is to have a great blend of dynamic condenser and ribbon microphones that the artist likes, the artist uses, but just sounds great in the room. So none of these are prefab. This is a pretty intense process, as Derek, as you are fully aware.
Yes.
But that's the whole spirit. Again, I didn't mean to get a sales pitch, but I think it's important that people understand that there's a lot that goes behind just capturing one of these.
Oh, and I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like when we've done the captures for the Rev cabinets at Stereo Bus, I mean, you're getting Paul Yee's expertise in miking cabinets. You're like, there is a lot that goes into that. We're using, again, most of the time I'm asking Paul, like, okay, man, I know this is mostly going to be used with a high gain channel on the 120. What would you mic up? What would you use? And yeah, absolutely. You're getting how they mic those cabinets when they record. You're not just getting, a completely set formula. And yeah, 100% right. Like it's not a model of a microphone. When we do this, Justin's being very polite. It's a shit process to do. And it takes like a couple of hours per cabinet to do. And it's super stressful. Because you do all of it and like you send the files off from Capture Masters to head office in France, and like you then hope for the best. Like you're like, okay, I'm waiting to hear back from them to see how it is, because there's no way for you to really really hear it in real time, right?
I'll put a caveat on that. We're actually working on some new tools. They're rewriting the software to make it a little more user friendly to the general user, so they can make their own. But we'll have ways to error check, so it doesn't have to get uploaded and then compiled and then find out, because each file is a couple gigs in size. These aren't little impulse files. These are gigantic file. So anyway, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, it's not that I thought that we didn't really ever have errors with it. What we ended up running into issues with, or I shouldn't say running into issues with, is you don't really know how the power amp that you're using colored it. You don't really know a lot of stuff, and you use the most transparent power amp to do it as possible. But you don't know with the mic pre's and stuff like that you used how these are going to sound until you get them back from them. And in Justin's case, I was like, when you told me you were going out to do these with George, I was like, whew, I've done this before and you hadn't done it yet. And I'm like, you got one shot in one day, or a couple of days that you had there to get this done, because you're in these you're in an amazing room that is booked all the time with engineers and an artist, and you're like, So you finish up at 2:00 in the morning, and you're like, all right, let's,
You nailed it. And we talked that day when I was doing it. Let me throw something else in there. Michael Nielsen, Big Hairy Guitars, Michael. I had Michael actually come in. Michael was a big George fan. We're the same age. He and I grew up, listening to the same exact stuff. So Michael did it as a, kind of a labor of love. And Michael had been through the frustration of doing his own pack, which is very successul. But Mike lived in LA, lived by Studio City. It was easy. So I was able to learn by watching him do it, because I hadn't done one yet. The best way I can give it to anybody in layman's terms is, imagine mixing a record where you can look at the screen, but you can't listen to the monitors.
Yeah.
That's what the capture master process is like.
Yes.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Well, you have to be highly organized, because you get anything out of order and it's easy to do, your product will not come back right.
Crazy.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so Joe Brown asked, so how long does it take to capture one IR versus 20,000 of them?
How are you reading that?
What's that?
I said, how are you reading that?
I like perfect vision. It's awesome. So the capture master process takes anywhere from, if you're really great at it, an hour and a half per cabinet, I would say, is the fastest you could do it. Did you get it down faster than that?
Probably an hour and a half. There's a pretty good cadence you can get. Now, I'm looking at his question, though. He's saying, how long does it capture just 1 hour versus 20,000? Do you want me to answer what he's asking, or?
Yeah, I was going to say, the sweep to do 1 IR isn't going to be anywhere near what it's going to be to do the capture master process. But it's still, it's still going to take you time to set up and do one IR with. Is Blend IR still out, or is that what you're producing a new version of?
So there's a new version of Blend IR coming out for the new operating systems. I have a Mac that I've got the older stuff, so I can do Blend IR. It's very important to note this. I do take sample shots before we actually start the captures. So what I do is two things. The first thing is I make sure everything's set up correctly. We're gain staged with the preamps, the power amp, everything's working right. But then I'll take one single shot, listen to it, then I'll take the artist and I won't let them see, and I'll put it on 2 faders, and I'll go, which one's this? Which one's this? Because the cabinets are in a completely different room. We're completely separated from that. So as long as they can't see what channel it's on, we remove confirmation bias. And I know it's right when they can't tell a difference and they can't feel a difference. So that's a test that I do with these guys. I go, which one? And I'll do like stuff like push the gain a little louder to try to make, louder sound better. And within seconds, everybody's like, I don't know anymore. And that's how I know that it's time to start.
Yeah, that's smart. We didn't do that. We did it. Paul just watched the meters and was like,
looks good.
It's good. Looks good. And to his credit, I mean, we've done them. They're not out yet, but we'll have Celestion loaded Dyne IRs from Rev coming out. I don't know, when I get my shit together and figure out how we're going to launch that. So,
and Derek, the Rev ones are exceptional. Just throwing that out there. I know we've got a lot of them. Yours are exceptional.
Paul is awesome at it, and like he did some through Stereo Bus with our cabs and with some other cabs that I think are available through. What do you guys call it? The Exchange now? Like it used to be La Boutique when I was there, but what's the online store called?
So something to tell all the listeners here is we've redone the website, so it's no longer the store is a different site than the website. It's all one. So your authentication, your account, everything is centralized inside of the site. So now it's very easy to try the cabinets out. It's very easy to purchase them, which was really difficult before. So yeah, it's really just kind of self-contained inside the store, so to speak. But you can purchase them through the remote app too. So.
Right. Yeah. And how much is a cabinet right now? A Dyne IR.
No. So what we typically do is the Artist Series ones are about $10. They're $10 a piece. I think they're €10 right now too. Again, if you know how much work it went to make 20,000 IRs, for one microphone, it's a great deal. Wow. But again, you're getting what you can go buy.
Dude, it's a great deal anyway. Like a cabinet, like a 4x12 cabinet, is $1,200 US from most manufacturers now. And then your mic list, what's a 121 worth? $4,000?
No, not quite that
like
much.
The set?
If you combine the set of mics, you're probably 25, 30,000. Combine the preamps, you're another 30,000 probably, or 20,000.
Right.
Combine the room that you're in for the day rate or whatever. I mean, you're easily at $100,000 for the pack. You know what I mean? Of just
like to be able to recreate what you're getting for $10, like you're not going to. Like that's plain and simple.
And by the way it's priced right now, if you buy the Lynch pack of 5, you buy the Phil X pack of 5, you basically kind of get one cabinet free. So we try to incentivize people to buy all that. And something I want to throw in there too, George and Phil are just the first 2 of the Artist Series. They're paid only on royalties of downloads. There was no cash up front. There was no by the name. These guys were they were using users. It. So that was what was paramount. But also I want to make sure that people understand this is the artist approves every one of these. We go through them end to end. And if they don't like something, they're going to tell you. And we can talk about Phil in a little while, but if Phil X doesn't like something, you may not even know it. If he likes something, he'll tell everybody. But if he doesn't like it, you just won't hear from him and he'll never use it. That's a lot of artists though. Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit more of this. Bo, you were messing with
I got the Lynch Mars cabinet right now. I was loving this thing.
Hey Bo, let me throw something in there. This is important. The Lynch Mars cabinet is an early 70s salt and pepper cabinet. That's the cabinet that Lynch did almost every Dokken record. Lynch Mob. He had that cabinet for 40-something years. So that is his favorite Marshall cabinet, and you're using 20-watt Celestions. I wanted to interrupt you just so you know that is very special to him. So
that's great. No, I was going through. We're going through all the new the IRs here as we started up before we started talking to you, I guess. And it was the one that I just got sucked right into. I heard it and I was like, everything else is great, but like this is the one for me though. I was pulling one of these ribbons just off a little bit too. Move it back
You
here.
can do it down here with the that distance knob.
Oh yeah, okay.
Your tablet thing sucks there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Just nice and tight though. It's just like I love this cab, dude.
That sounds awesome. Everybody say hi to Jeremy Juarez and the Poo Ninja. Sorry guys, we've been rambling too much and not talking to you guys. Jeremy, you absolutely do need to upgrade to a Capture X. It's the twin tracker and the fact that it runs stereo is it's massive compared to the original Capture. Not to downplay how good the original Capture is, but absolutely there's no comparison in throw your Capture in the river by Capture X.
I just now figured out how the comments work. So I'm just now seeing all these people. So hi everybody. First of all, I see somebody asked about the Tone Master. Can we jump ahead to that real quick?
Yeah, man. What type of sound should I have for that?
So the Tone Master is a really smooth sound. That's kind of like Phil X's secret weapon. So I start exactly where you are.
Yeah,
sounds great.
So you want a high gain sound, or should it be a?
So it doesn't matter. Here's what you'll notice about high gain with that speaker in particular, and without belaboring this, we thought that was a 10-inch speaker because the port is 10-inch. It's actually a 12-inch speaker, and the chassis obstructs that. So I actually had to take it apart a few days ago to figure out what size it really was because it didn't have any markings on it. It doesn't say what size. It looks like a 10, but it's a 12.
I saw that amp when we were down in Nashville and you were headed home and you were putting it in the back of your Jeep there, and I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "That's Phil X's secret weapon." It's like,
it is, and this is Phil's. This is the one like the evil robot was.
Oh, there it is.
After. This is his. It's being held for ransom. So that speaker is a little deceptive in there. Now from your angle, it looks like a 12, but when you're looking at it from the front and you see the speaker hole, I measured that. That's 10 inches right there. So it's very deceiving. But when you talk about the sound, which is the important part, it's got tens of thousands of well-seasoned hours on it. It's very smooth, very even, balanced. Two things. When you play high gain through it, it automatically will roll off some top end and kind of bring up the mid-range really smooth. But what's cool is just crank with a 100 amp, and not blow it up. So that's right out. I think you guys will.
Oh, right away. So nice.
that was nice.
It's a huge contrast to 4x12s.
What's that?
It's a huge contrast to those the Lynch 4x12s.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it's. I hear what you're talking about, like with the mid focus. Like it's.
It's got like a nice snarl to it. Like it's just like growls at you, man. I like that.
Yeah, like. Well,
it sounds pissed. It's great.
Man, I'm on the like green channel, so like. Turn on some effects so I sound like I play. Man, I wish Justin can play. This dude is like a smoking guitar player, like insane.
I wish I could hear it. Yeah.
I appreciate that. You can't play anything. The interesting thing about the Tone Master is Phil is the one that made those popular from the Fretted Americana shows that kind of made him a YouTube star back, 12 years ago. And the interesting thing about that amp was he'd be demoing these $250,000, $100,000 guitars, and people were just more interested in the amp, which he would just run like with a DoD Bad Monkey, and that's what kind of started the rage of that. And there's a part that we didn't put in the video yet, but he goes, well, you could find these for $300 all day long on Reverb, and then some guy named Phil X starts using them, and then they're $1,500. He's like, F you, Phil X. So if you get on there and you find one, they're not cheap, and any of the Magnetones now are very expensive. So, but there's a reason they sound awesome.
Yeah, no, dude, it sounds great. I'm gonna try with a different guitar here just to see kind of like some contrast and show you guys some contrast. Anthony, what's up? Yeah, Anthony, I haven't been using regular IRs for years. Like since we got the down IRs of like the Rev 412s, I haven't bothered using a static IR. What's a Nightfall mic?
That's Guillaume's thing. So Guillaume, the CEO of Two Notes, it's a dragonfly. It's the blue dragonfly Nightfall. Yeah. And he thinks, he gets a kick out of it. But I was like, what is that? It actually is a killer sounding mic.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds great.
Something that to me that really stuck was you have to be careful with these in one aspect of use your ears. Don't just use your eyes. Yeah. Let your ears dictate what sounds good, because people get very hung up with, I need a 121 right here and I need a 57 right here, and that's the magic spot. That's kind of an empty logic. It's rooted in, this makes sense, but use your ears, pull them back a little bit, sweep them around and really find what works, because minor changes make big impacts. So always encourage people, based on just working with Phil, use your ears too. Don't just say that this mic and this mic's going to equal what I want, because you might find a 414 or 421 did something better for you than a 57 did. It's totally a little bit confusing.
I mean, this is one of the hardest lessons that I learned early on with Rev, and that was that people hear with their eyes first all the time, right? Like we constantly look at things and be like, I'm not going to like that. Yeah. And totally. Like aesthetic matters, and in the same breath with this, right? Like if you're used to certain mics being on access rather than off access, you're immediately going to move them on access, and you're like, well, you know what? That might not be the right thing. You might also find something, like really magical somewhere else.
So to a live player, I'll say if you use like a 57 and a 121 and put like 60-40, and you didn't have any clue of you thought it sounded good, you do a 68%, 57, 40% Royer right in the middle, and you take it to a gig, the sound guy is going to be very impressed if you did nothing else from there. So just speaking from simplicities of, does this sound good outside of my environment? You start there. That's a great place to start, where you're going to go, yeah, we got
That's a really hot tip. I like that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like you're talking on access, off access, or are you talking backed up in the room?
I'm just saying like dead up, zero,
Oh, yeah.
Even though it seems a little unconventional, even to starting both of them, even 50-50, the sound guy is going to be able to adjust you in the mix very quickly.
Right. So just run the 57 a little bit hotter.
A little bit hotter, yeah. And something very it's people much. When they blend IRs themselves have phasing problems. And without getting into all the complexities of what phasing means or how the phasing works, you put two sources together that are not lined up properly, you'll get frequencies that cancel out, and things will get thin and gnarly. Every Dyne IR, regardless of what pack you mix it with or whatever microphone connection or combination, they'll always be in phase. So that's something very important. You never have a phase problem.
That's your 57 up like 3 or 4 dB over the 121. Like that sounds killer, man. And that's that little master of tone thing. What on Phil's 4x12s? What's your favorite? That MLC or the Mars 412?
So they're quite a bit different. I I don't necessarily like G1275s, but Phil's 900 cabinet has been used so much and had so much burn time through it that it no longer has this gnarly snarl to it. It's rounded off. So it's got this really big thing. And Phil likes the higher watt speakers, the 65s and the 75s, because he likes to be able to really push the air without the cones breaking up. And I'll tell you what, that cabinet right there sounds exceptional. It's not brittle. It's not scooped. It's just very like perfectly tuned 412 cabinet. So out of the gate, go ahead and play a little bit. I mean, it sounds just great right there.
Yeah, you go. Jeremy, unfortunately, I'm not running wall of sound. Jeremy Juarez asked if we could hear the Tone Master in the VH cab in stereo. I can't because in order to run stereo cabs, you have to run wall of sound. We're just running the Torpedo remote direct out of the amps. So if you take a direct signal with like the Captor X or your Captor into Pro Tools and run wall of sound, you can do that. That's what, Justin, you were talking about. That's some of the presets and that you've done, right? Is running multiple cabs?
So I don't want to take away from your amp's hardware or our hardware, but just wall of sound alone, if you run a Rev amp with the embedded 2 notes or you use any 2 notes product, if you use an aux, if you use a Waza, whatever you can do to convert that to line level and go into wall of sound, you can actually run multiple concurrent speakers and micro through wall of sound, which is what it was designed for. A couple cool things you can do that he was asking. First thing is with Van Halen or VH1 and VH2, which is the Eddie Van Halen cabinet. VH1 is the 25 watt greenback cabinet, and the VH2 is early 70s JBLs. Those JBLs will sound gnarly and nasty on their own, but if you put them in wall of sound and you sum them together, it opens this blooming mid range that you have to hear it to believe it. And if somebody just wants a great sound out of the gate, I would say use VH1, just use the greenback. But if you're in wall of sound, combine them both. It takes on it's like a whole new blend. Like Edward Van Halen was not just an innovator. He was very far ahead of his time. So that's the cool stuff you can do in wall of sound, but you could also blend in a Tone Master with the Marshall. And something that Phil X does a lot is he blends that Supro, what we call the Super 108, that 8-inch Supro cabinet. He blends a lot with other amplifiers. And like, we were talking earlier, you take a Generator 120 into an 8-inch Supro, for real, you're going to blow that thing up pretty fast. But through wall of sound or through the embedded stuff, you can run your amp full tilt and you're not going to blow that little 8-inch speaker up. So, and myriad of combinations.
And guys, just so you know, you can run your embedded loaded amp. I should check and see if this is in the D20 and the G20 yet. But for sure, the Mark IIIs, you can run, and guys, if you show my screen here, you can defeat, you can bypass the cabinet. So it's gonna sound awful. Justin, how do I turn the mic off?
You need to see the B buttons next to the other ones, the mic channels. That's bypass.
There, that's your line level signal coming from the amp. Correct. You can put that into Pro Tools, run wall of sound in Pro Tools, and then you can do exactly what Justin is talking about, and you get wall of sound. Wall of sound is still a free download right now, right?
As long as, I believe so, as long as you buy cabinets with it. So you have to purchase cabinets to use it.
Or do you have to, if you have a license, like if you've already bought our hardware, you just download wall of sound, right?
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. If you own any Rev or embedded 2 Notes product, or you own any 2 Notes device, and it can even be an analog capture, you do get the wall of sound license with it. And it comes with 2 cabinets. With the Ritzy, which is the Marshall with the Vintage 30 and the High Watt 212, I believe. So you do get, with any of your stuff or any of our products, you do get the license and whatever special we're running at the time. It's a minimum of 2, sometimes more. And we have some cool,
Look,
stuff coming up over the months.
Everybody say hi to Mr. Tubbs. Sean has decided to join us. So if you plug your Ganjo into that dang George Lynch cab, will it rock? Absolutely. And Sean, I think that would be a great rev time video for you. So thanks for coming up with something that we should do. Oh, John Scott from Bluesman Vintage Guitars. Yes, John, this is still my baby 6 years or so after you built this for me. Yeah, I mean, I know you hate that I put Fishman Fluence pickups in it, John, but John over at Bluesman Vintage out of Spring Hill, Tennessee builds just killer guitars for anybody looking for them. So
That's a sweet telly.
how awful does that sound when you?
It sounds pretty gross, yeah.
Sounds like Nine Inch Nails. You nailed the 9 Inch Nails sound.
Yeah. So you can bypass the cabinets like that, guys. I'm not sure if that feature is in. Is that in the? Will it be in the D20 and the G20 remote? It should be the same, right?
It should be the same, yeah.
Okay. I'll be honest. I have not run the new remote since. I haven't run my D20 or my G20 with the remote since the update came when you guys did the Mark III stuff. So.
Yeah, it should work exactly the same on everything. So regardless if it's a Captor X or one of the Rev amps, it should work exactly the same. But you definitely need to have Sean do his tribute to George. Being an LA guy and all, growing up in that.
Yes.
Growing up in that. So yeah, Sean, you got to do it now. You don't have a choice.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm joking, but not really.
No,
not really though, yeah.
No, I'm gonna put it on our marketing board later, and Sean's sitting at home just being like,
yeah, Sean regrets showing up to our group chat here, yeah.
He's about to leave and not be back. So. You didn't have to stop when I.
Oh no, I thought we were done.
Oh, yeah. So I know I didn't say we're gonna have question time, but because it is getting close to 9 o'clock here and it's almost 10 o'clock for Justin, do you guys have any other questions for Justin, for us? Is there anything you guys want to hear or anything you guys want to see have happen? I mean, with Sammy not here, there's absolutely no way you're gonna hear any gent today.
Yeah, don't ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, anybody have any questions or anything? Or Justin, is there anything you think that we didn't really talk about that you want to add?
Well, the first thing is the Phil and George cabinets. We use the same preamps in 2 different studios. Well, actually 3, because the Tone Master was wired into the back of the transformer, so I couldn't get it done at Ocean Way. So I took it to a studio in Indianapolis, which ironically had identical gear, and the Tone Master sounds exceptional. Anyway, they sound vastly different. But the Artist Series is something that's upcoming. We're not done with it yet. That's my baby, my pet project. So more good stuff's coming. But the idea is, again, you're buying a legacy. You're buying things you can't get, but now you can. I mean, where are you going to get a Van Halen cabinet from?
Yeah.
An auction?
For sure. Howlin' Man had asked before, why do people hate 112 cabinets? I don't hate them.
I don't. I have a 112 that I use all the time. I love it.
Yeah. I don't hate 1x12 cabinets by any means. I do play enough cheesy Nickelback style hard rock chords. That's my go-to. So in a room, I will always pick a 4x12 if I can get it. But
I don't have a 4th. I got a 212 and a 112, and I like them both, but yeah, for different things, right?
Yeah, most of the time that, I've said this lots on live stream, most of the time when I play anymore, I play at my brother's church. And if I don't have to go direct, if I'm allowed to use a cabinet on stage, it's almost always a 1x12 cabinet because, to be honest, I'm not going to haul anything else besides that.
Well, playing bar gigs, if you're playing anything over a 112, it's a little ridiculous sometimes. My next move is getting one of these, though, for myself.
Yes.
So that I can just go straight into the front. Yeah.
Somebody asked to hear the Tone Master. Andy asked for the Tone Master Purple channel. There it is. All right. What else we got?
I think Sean nailed something big. He says the Royer 121 can take up a lot of space for sure. I'll run my 121 up 20% under a 57 to fit in the mix. He said something that's really big. If you run it 40 to 50%, it's going to take a massive amount of low end, which a sound person will cut out. So when I said you can do this, the sound person will just shove out those low frequencies. They're going to take everything about 110, 125 and lower and just scoop that out. Sean has the right ears and the right approach. He's putting just a little bit of that in there to put this low mids and low end girth in there, but not eat the mix. So Sean obviously knows what he's doing, but that's a great pro tip for recording and playing live. If you really want to give somebody a mix ready file, do the 80-20. That's
Nice.
very good. Thank you, John.
Farns, Red Cab with Amperion speakers. Yeah, we did a few with Amperion speakers from essentially WGS. We would have done more, but during the pandemic, we were having a real problem being able to get the Explorer 65s. I think they sound great though. So yeah, you could probably still order, if you want a physical cabinet, you could probably still order it with those. So yeah. Some of the other things that we didn't talk about that probably should just briefly touch on while we have you, Justin, is like we have not really even scratched the surface of everything that's included in either wall of sound or torpedo remote. There's still the twin tracker. There's still, they have a built-in noise gate, which, I mean, if you're running a Mark III head, you have the noise gate built into the amp. So you can choose if you want the digital one or the one that's built in. And then you have like the separate EQing that you can do. You've got the enhancer and then the reverbs. The reverbs are really awesome. My favorite, I'm just gonna move to a cabinet that's more my speed.
Yeah, there you go.
And for the rooms, man, I'm a huge fan of that cathedral reverb. That's a little much for me on it, but like. Like, I love that.
And Derek, just so the users know, if you're using a Mark III or a Capture X, you're running stereo left and right out, the custom reverb is in stereo. And it's awesome through headphones, but it's also awesome for this immersive type, kind of in the room, so to speak, sound.
Yep. And you've got, how many different rooms are there?
There's
Like
probably
12?
like 12 to 14 reverbs in there.
Yeah. Sean, if you're still there, what's your go-to on the room reverbs when you're messing with the two-note stuff? Yeah.
Derek, pull that triangle up to about 30, 40%.
30 to 40%?
Yeah, there you go. That'll give you good. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You want to try yours?
You want to turn the reverb on? So just click on this here. There you go.
Oh, okay.
That's changing your cab.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Plate. That sounds
Yeah, the plate sounds sick, dude.
Yeah. It's killer. What's
Yeah,
your
the
go-to,
reverb-
Justin?
I like the custom reverb when I'm doing something where I want like to feel it, or if I've got headphones on. I use the custom reverb, by the way, at any kind of consumer event. So when we have demo stations that are obviously all silent, I want people to have that immersive experience. So I'll use that for that. kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
has a stereo binaural effect. I like the Studio A and B just for slapping it in a mix.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That sounds awesome. Yeah. So, and to give guys one last little thing about it, what is the enhancer exactly doing?
For simplicity's sake, think of it like an enhancer, almost like a BBE that you control the lows, mids, and highs on. So the BBE just kind of had the low and the high. The thing with the enhancer is a little bit will go a long way. I don't typically run the wet dry more than about 30 to 40%. And I start with the body thickness and brilliance all about 9. You'll see, Derek, turn the blend down just a little bit. And then
Where's the
turn the
blend?
body and everything up about 30%.
Oh, the wet dry. Okay, so
Yeah,
what would you
turn that down
normally?
just a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good.
Okay. And then you said about 9?
No, put everything up about 9, 10 o'clock, and then listen
okay.
to it and engage and disengage it.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's really bright. Yeah. Let me pull that back, especially with the Telecaster.
Oh yeah.
And
that's
something
killer.
that the EQ, enhancer, and reverb are all post. So these are coming after the microphones and speakers. And the
Okay.
enhancer is a pretty powerful feature. I mean, it can give you a nice push and nice tightness without being overbearing. Again, this is post everything, so you can start clipping the outputs if you run it too hot because it's a post gain stage. So if you back it down a little bit and just be conservative with it, a little bit will go a long way, and it adds a nice little sweet touch on the top.
Nice. Yeah. So, yeah, for those of you who haven't really like dived into the Torpedo remote, and like Anthony, if you're still here when you were talking about like using like a static IR versus using the Dyne IRs, this is the type of stuff that leads me to use the Dyne IRs a lot more. Like at the NAMM show, I was talking earlier today. I don't know if you were here. I think I was just talking with Manny when he was here. That on the Torpedo Lives when we used to run them, I would actually run their power amp modeling.
Okay.
On
you didn't tell me this before.
Yeah, so I would turn on the 6L6 power amp modeling, even though it's running through a power amp, because it brings in so much bottom end and it gets so fat that when you're playing with headphones, it gave you more of the feel of if you were actually playing through a 212 cabinet or 412 cabinet in front of you.
Yeah.
It felt a lot bigger than running without it. And people would ask me, they're like, "So why did you do that?" And I'm like, purely because I thought it got you closer to what you would feel in a room. And a lot of people, myself included, like I'm not used to playing through in-ear monitors or listening back through studio monitors. I'm 99% of the time I have a cabinet and I'm
right in front of this thing,
and I'm
exactly.
hearing it in front of it. So it's only times when either I'm recording or I'm playing at church and they tell me I can't have a cabinet on stage. They get forced to use ears. And I'm one of those guys that, for the most part, I don't like it. It feels so drastically different to me, and I would just way rather prefer,
I'm with you, man. Simpatico, brother. I get you.
But wait, there's something so cool that the Gen 3s do and the Captor X does. Go back to the screen. I'll show you something super cool. Fixes that problem.
Okay.
So,
hey Brett, man, good to see you too. Hope you're doing well, dude. It's been a long time since I've seen you. It's been a long time since an Aristides event. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I'm on the screen there, guys. Can you pull up the laptop for him? Yeah.
So the Rev Gen 120 Revision 3 and the Captor X. So Derek, if you go down to the dual mono and monitor EQ right now, go back. Okay, so go back to, you're in stereo mode, click that.
Yep.
Now you're in dual mode. The left is the straight front of house signal. The right becomes your monitor mix or in-ear monitor mix, if you so choose. And then you can EQ that differently, and you can send the reverb blend to your ears differently. So if it's too spiky,
Wow.
turn some 6K down, boost the 120 up. You can even set it to
nice.
custom and do like a semi-parametric. That feature was in there for live players. And again, the Mark IIIs will do that, and the Captor X will do that. It was
that's
purposely
awesome.
done so you don't have to worry about like, why do my in-ears suck? Well, they'll just suck a little less now. So the idea is you can take those frequencies and make them a little more comfortable without messing with the sound person's mix.
That's
That's
crazy,
awesome.
man. Yeah, it's crazy what you guys are doing with this stuff. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna just leave the twin tracker on too for everybody at the next NAMM show too. So
Exactly, absolutely. Custom reverb, twin tracker, demo, you're done.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for us? Because it's 9 o'clock and we haven't eaten dinner, so
Yeah,
it's about that time.
I'm getting hungry, man.
Yeah.
Derek, feel free to give people my contact info if they have any like deep remote questions or deep cab IR questions.
No problem. You guys have anything you want to send Justin, you want to sign him up for whatever mailing lists you possibly can, it's justin@2-notes.com. You know, he loves that. Yeah, 2-notes. So unless you're signing him up for a horrible website, send us just justin@2notes.com. Just remember to. Just do that instead. So, all right. Justin, thanks so much for joining us. And Bo, thanks for hanging out,
Thanks
man.
for having me. Justin, good meeting you,
Yeah.
man.
Nice to meet you, Bo.
Yeah.
You're building great stuff, man. Derek, fun. By the way, Sean Tubbs said he will do a Ganjo George Lynch tribute.
I saw he's all over
Yes.
it. Yeah.
I'm into it. I'm gonna end up having to buy a Ganjo, just because I'm gonna see Sean do it and I'll be like, I want to try that.
Oh, I had.
Yeah.
We all need one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need that.
Why does Sean get all the toys, right? Like we all need. Yeah.
I know. It makes me sad.
You're telling me.
Just kidding. Jeremy, just to answer one last question, go scroll down, guys. Jeremy asked when the next live stream is. We try to do them every Wednesday. So if you're around on Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony, what other cabs are must-haves to pair with the 120 Mark III? Man, I have no idea. I'll be honest, the most I get to play is the 45 minutes to an hour leading up to, actually, I was in here today at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
To start messing around, and so the 3 hours that I got today is all I get to play this week.
The 6 minutes that I played here on the stream today is probably the most I'll play for the rest of the week.
Yes.
Is he asking what physical cab or what impulse or what?
No, he's asking. Anthony's asking what impulse. Justin and Anthony, you guys need to. Anthony, you should be talking to Justin about your tune-up stuff. So
yeah, and Anthony, just so you know, when you're connected by a USB to your computer and any rev amp or that's embedded or any 2-Notes product, you can demo any of the cabinets through the store. It's synced up. You only get one mic, but you can demo all the cabinets in there.
my guess is Anthony probably knows that. He's had I'm sure he's had Capture X or Torpedo Studio, and he's got a 120. And yeah, I'll connect you guys, Anthony and Sean.
Happy to help, Anthony.
Yeah, I'll connect you guys after the stream because it'll be worthwhile for you guys to talk. Where can you find what IRs are included with the 100p Mark III? That is a great question. I don't know. If I think it's supposed to be listed on the website, and if it's not, if you could send an email over to me at derek@redamps.com, I'll make sure that they list which ones are included. A lot of the time when you buy an amp, we have IR cards, or we call them IR cards, but they're virtual cabinet cards that list which virtual cabs are in your amp, as well as what presets Sean designed for them. So, but knowing me, I probably didn't push for anybody to put it on the web where people would want to find it.
I mean, if you don't know, I don't know. So.
Yeah. So sorry about that. If it's not there, send me an email and I will make sure it gets put up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say that any rev amp you buy, be it a D20 upwards, Sean put amazingly well dialed in I mean, I use my D20 for gigs all the time, and I just turn it on to number one, and every one of them sounds great. So Sean did a great job at the Island.
The stock sounds in these amps are crazy, man. Like,
I know. Justin will understand this, and pretty much no one else. But one of his colleagues at Two Notes is a guy named Jeremy, and Jeremy was like, "So how are the D20 sales going?" Like early on, I'm like, "Great." He's like, "We're not seeing a lot of software registrations," and I'm like, "Really?" And we found out that because a ton of people, as soon as they got it, the presets that Sean had designed, they were so happy with that they were just like, "What do you mean there's software?" Like they get the card and everything that tells them to go to to Two Notes and download the Torpedo remote,
like,
but they're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Like so, Sean, you have to design worse presets for the next amp so that people have to go download the software and mess with it.
Yeah, stop doing so good, man.
Stop having amazing ears and hands.
Yeah, make
and
our
taste.
makes our tech support team pull out their hair constantly. Just make it worse.
Yeah. So, okay. Guys, thanks everyone for hanging out. Justin, thanks for joining us for this. It's
Thanks
a
for
ton of
having me,
fun.
guys.
Yeah, we'll have you on another time when we, when we want to do more Tuno stuff. And we absolutely should get a couple of guys together and talk. I think a lot of guys would love to hear some of the insight that you have, having been in the industry and, talking about NAMM and the Dallas Guitar Show and like all of these things that, you and I have done. You've done many more of them than I have, but that we've done for years now that a lot of people don't get to go to. And there's a lot of folklore around some of them that we could probably either contribute to or dispel, one of the two. But,
or both.
Yeah, exactly.
So the one truth, they're a lot more fun to attend than to work.
Correct.
People think that working at a NAMM booth is the most fun experience ever. Maybe your first time, but after that, you're like, oh, it's going to be a rough.
I'm not going to lie, I still love it, but it's probably because I'm one of the owners of the company. And it's the coolest thing to see the market's engagement to your product in such a large scale, because you never get to see that anywhere else.
No,
that being said, as a gear guy, I don't get to see anything else. Yeah. Like if it's not at my booth, and it's not the booth beside the bathrooms, I will not see it. And that sucks because I remember being like, man, I want to go check out like the PRS private stocks and a bunch of cool stuff. And it never happens. Or some of the guys will come with us. We let them take breaks to go check something out. And they're like, dude, you got to go see this. I'm like, my schedule is full till 6. There's no way I'm going to go see that. Yeah. But you could go take a picture.
Yeah.
That's it. Show me.
Yeah.
You nailed it. It's the same thing, right? You have to ask people what's cool. What's cool? Yeah. And then okay, I'll go look at it in a few days, because we don't get to go see it.
Yeah. Okay, last question. RM, are the IRs the same for all amps? Yes, I'm pretty sure that you get the same 10 dyna IRs with any Rev product. The presets, though, are the difference. So on the 6-way virtual cabinet selector on the front of the D20, the G20, or the Mark IIIs, the presets on each one of those amps is set differently because Sean kind of designed each one to pair with each different amplifier. So, you're still going to find presets of the Rev 412, 212, and 112. That's typically what we do on all the amps. Is like preset 1 and 2 are going to be a 412 dry and a 412 wet. Presets 3 and 4 will be a 212 dry, dry and wet, and then 112 dry and wet. So, But again, like Justin said, you can preview any cabinet you want from the Two Notes Exchange or system or website or whatever it's now called. It used to be called La Boutique, and whatever you call it now, you can preview any of them. And for me, man, I still use that Brownie back cabinet, which I think is supposed to be an EVH cabinet, and it's killer. And it's surprisingly killer for clean tones and like really nice mid gain tones. So, I would definitely check out. If you have time to tweak, you will get lost for the next 2 years going through you guys are up to close to 500 dyna IRs?
Over 500.
Yeah. So good luck. I know they were downloading to my license today, and I was like, oh, Oh, this is going to take 45 minutes to download. This is
We actually
unbelievable.
we're all AWS now, so you can download every single one, and it'll go a lot faster. But good luck with all those.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cabinets.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to get out of here so that us and our crew here can go eat. So, Justin, thanks again. And, yeah, we will see you guys next Wednesday.
Yeah, man.
Okay.